Since superheroes first appeared in printed media in the mid-1930s, they have had an undeniable influence on our society. Since then, they have continued to evolve and grow in popularity until eventually the concept started to break into the mainstream and cover many different forms of media in the current age. After a few false starts, the genre took itself more seriously, and with it came media that reflected the societies at the time. The movies captured the essence of people's values and ideals. You'd have to if you want to have any intention of captivating audiences. People want to be able to identify with the movies they watch. But how exactly has this tone shifted over the years to reflect society and the ideals it holds most dear? To answer that question, we'll be looking at three key aspects that make up the superhero genre. 1. The portrayal of the ideals. 2. The portrayal of authority figures. And 3. The moral makeup of the hero. So as you probably expect, we'll start out with the first superhero movie, Superman the movie. Released in 1978, Superman was the first major Hollywood movie to feature superheroes. With a star-studded cast and an army of screenwriters, the movie proved successful enough to be nominated for 3 Academy Awards. But where does it sit with our comparators? In this movie, Superman is shown to be a symbol. He is a symbol of the American dream, and of hope. Christopher Reeve's nuanced performance as both Superman and Clark Kent is perfect in this regard. Everything he does is in some way to benefit the nation and the society he represents. Superman is what we strive for, and is held up as an example to the nation. In keeping with the idea of American heroism, figures of authority in this movie are treated with respect and shown as being heroic in their own way, despite the obvious contrast with the titular character. From Superman's Kryptonian father offering advice and guidance to the more humble human father figure during his youth, and even to an extent official figures like police officers and military personnel, the figures of authority serve to inform and develop Superman's own hero's journey. As is a common theme for the character of Kal-El, Superman fights for truth, justice, and the American way. His reason for being a hero is because he has been guided by his guardians throughout his life, and he will fight for what he believes is right, which, even though it goes against the advice of Jor-El, interferes with history to restore the Earth and prevent the disaster that forms the narrative of this film. Every person matters to him. The staple superhero theme of defending people is something that is carried forward to our first major Hollywood change a decade later, with Batman, 1989. Superman may have been a box office success, but Batman was a monster. The first summer movie release replete with merchandising deals and tie-in offers. That partially accounts for the film's world-shattering box office success, more than $411 million worldwide to be precise. Of course, another reason is that this was the first time Batman had been treated with any kind of sincerity and seriousness on the big screen. Batman marks a shift in what is considered to be the greater good. While Superman fought for the nation, Batman's gothic adventure focuses on the people. What is considered to be ideal in this instance is to keep people from harm, and with the element of the grander scale of justice, the film reads more like a theatrical satire on the state of the diegetic society, although the almost satirical tone of the film itself exists outside the expected conventions of realist society. Ignore for a moment the fact that Batman is arguably an authority figure, being a wealthy businessman in this universe. On the whole, the government in this movie is shown to be corrupt with a binary view of good and evil, which is not too far removed from the views of the recent Reaganism in American culture at the time. It makes the implication that high authority cannot necessarily be relied upon and was the beginning of exploring the individual acts of heroism. Batman's common motivation for becoming a masked vigilante is in his backstory of witnessing his parents murdered when he was a child. In maturity, however, he continues this vendetta because he sees the level of crime, and Michael Keaton's portrayal of the character brings with it a much more serious tone than previous Batman incarnations. Both Batman and his alter ego Bruce Wayne are presented as cold, remote, and unreachable. He has turned his back on the city and focuses on his fight against crime, leaving the character as being a social outsider in both aspects of his life. There would be a number of superhero movies in the years following the release of Batman. Sequels, spin-offs, B-movies, standalone movies, many of them following the tone set by the Tim Burton-esque style as the genre found its footing. However, this footing would change again following a major world event. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 and the subsequent US-led invasions of Afghanistan in 2001 and Iraq in 2003 profoundly affected all aspects of society, including cinema, and what emerged as a thicket of debatably pessimistic movies that make pre-9/11 outings appear naive and optimistic. Adding on to the satire of Batman, society as a whole was beginning to question its values. 2 films released in the same year showcased this questioning of ideals, Iron Man and The Dark Knight in 2008. Both have been chosen for being the defining style for each of their respective cinematic universes, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC Extended Universe. While both have separate tones on a surface level, one being more light-hearted while the other opting for gritty reality, both have similar elements of social commentary. Both these movies showcase the same desire, the wish to protect the common person, as any good hero should. Despite this idea of the greater good and protecting people, the moral ideals in these films differ slightly from the previously mentioned movies. The contemporary hero is more about personal and individual growth. The viewer is asked to question their own values and wonder if they themselves are doing the right thing. What is seen as the greater ideal is the ability to reflect on our own actions and see individual change. It raises the question of what the right action even is. Writing in 2008, Benjamin Kirstein says, "The Dark Knight is a perfect mirror of the society which is watching it, a society so divided on the issues of terror and how to fight it that, for the first time in decades, an American mainstream no longer exists." The corruption and incompetence of government witnessed in Tim Burton's version of Batman is increased even further in both Iron Man and The Dark Knight. Christian Bale's Batman struggles with an elite ruling class and government that is corrupt to the point of inaction against rampant crime, leaving the lesser authority of the police to struggle in a city that cannot be trusted. Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark, meanwhile, is struggling with corruption within his own company. He cannot even trust the people he believed himself to be closest to, and it is ultimately revealed that weapons are being sold to foreign powers, drawing parallels with real-life criticism of the American government. One common aspect that unites our two heroes is the idea of powerful individuals questioning themselves. As envisaged by the late Heath Ledger, the Joker is to all intents and purposes a 21st century terrorist whose role is to steadily pick apart stitches in the fabric of our society. He steadily awakens Christian Bale's Batman to this appalling revolution, and in the process making the title character realise that good and evil aren't so easily dissociated from one another. Tony Stark, meanwhile, is motivated by his experiences of seeing American soldiers killed by the weapons he has designed, and his attempt at redemption is the realisation that he has been contributing to death, and he feels shame at his actions, once again seeing himself as being the change there needs to be in the world. He is in the belief that the only person he can trust is himself. To sum up then, our films and the superhero genre can be viewed as key societal shifts affected by world events and the values held by people at the time, moving towards a progressively more individualistic ideal. Our evolution moves from theatrics and optimism, to theatrics and dark satire, and finally to realism and satire. As the genre continues to develop and mature, where then will the genre lead us as more and more studios continue to ride the current wave of popularity? Only time will tell.